We're in a cultural battle. That's why Heritage Action created the Sentinel program, to empower conservatives to speak up, take action, and to hold your lawmakers accountable. And when Sentinels speak, Congress listens. Together, we're going to hold the line and advance conservatism for generations to come.
Blue Courage, honoring our men and women in law enforcement. In a world of chaos, divide, strife, and hatred, with law enforcement under attack, there has never been a more important moment to support Blue Courage.
An officer enforcing the law of kindness.
It's just amazing, the bond that he has.
And then if you ever need me, all you gotta do is ask for me, right?
It's very important to see the connection he has.
Blue Courage, a special report. Brought to you by Just the News.
Good evening. I'm Eric Greitens, and I'm honored to be with you this evening. Too often, the mainstream media, many American politicians, disown and dishonor the sacrifice that our police officers make every day and every night. Here at America's Voice, we honor them for their service and remember them for their sacrifice. Thank you for joining us for this one-hour special, Blue Courage, Restoring America's Trust in Law Enforcement.
You are seeing now, these images came and come in stark contrast to what we saw over the course of the daytime hours in Kenosha and into the early evening, which were largely peaceful demonstrations in the face of law enforcement.
One of them punched in the face. The man allegedly trying to grab one of their guns. Good Samaritan.
Police video showed one person dumping out a backpack with what appeared to be frozen water bottles, which were then thrown at officers.
Police just confirmed within the hour that the critically ill St. Louis City police officer has died.
Now that's where we're at today. When we take a look back, we see that before we even had a country, we had police. In Boston in 1635, settlers established a night watch. It was manned by volunteers. Now about 70 years later in 1703, members of the night watch were first paid 35 shillings a month, and the profession of policing on the continent began. Policing was woven into the tapestry of American government from our founding. And in 1786, Sheriff Benjamin Branch of Chesterfield County, Virginia, became the first known law enforcement officer to give his life in the line of duty. In 1789, it was President George Washington who created the first federal law enforcement officers when he appointed 13 United States Marshals. Now today in America, police are under assault, as you saw. They are assaulted with bricks and bottles, fireworks and Molotov cocktails. They are also assaulted by dishonest prosecutors who charge them with crimes when they are clearly just doing their jobs to protect all of us. They're attacked by the left-wing media who distort facts beyond comprehension, who use words like mostly peaceful to describe arson. Now, we do not have to be passive in the face of this violence. We can let police know that we appreciate them. We can support law enforcement organizations that care for the widows and children of fallen officers, and support those that buy essential safety equipment for officers on duty. You can put a thin blue line sticker on your car, a sign in your yard. These seem like small things, but remember this. The left works by fear and intimidation. When we take action, we build courage. And tonight, we'll be talking about other positive and powerful steps that we can take together. The anarchists, the leftists, the rioters, looters, criminals, and assaulters are only a small portion of society. The good news is there are a lot more of us. We can win with courage, and Americans have always been courageous. Tonight on Blue Courage, we're going to be talking with officers. We're also going to be talking with the widows of slain officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice. We're going to talk with police leaders who are on the front lines and our fellow citizens, and we're going to talk practically about how we got here and how together we can restore trust in law enforcement. These men and women face danger for all of us. We need to have their backs. They wake up, and before they go out to do their jobs, they strap on body armor and put on a sidearm. They step into the night to do dangerous work, and when danger lurks, when the call goes out, they run in as others are running out. Tonight, we're going to talk about how we stand with them, how we have their backs, and how together we can restore trust in law enforcement. It's going to be a great night. Stay right with us.
Hello, my name's John Solomon. I'm the editor-in-chief at Just the News, and I want to welcome you to tonight's very special event, the Blue Courage Award, the first ever Blue Courage Award. We want to thank you for your support and for your attention tonight. It is hard to imagine just a few short months ago that we would be having a debate about dishonoring, disarming, and defunding American police officers. How we got to this moment and how we emerge from it will be a very important dialogue in America. That's why we're having tonight's event. Law enforcement is very special to my own family. My father served for 46 years, eventually retiring as a police chief. My brother served for 28 years as a detective. We care about what goes on in the front lines of law enforcement on safety and security. We want to keep this dialogue going. In the meantime, we also want to thank tonight's honorees. Their families have made the ultimate sacrifice to make sure that America remains safe. We thank you for the compassion and the courage that you have shown in these difficult times. We hope you enjoyed tonight's show, and we'll get you right back to it.
I love him and I miss him very much. I made you die. I love you, Daddy. My daddy was a hero and I'm so proud of him.
When I told the girls that their daddy became an angel, it was extremely hard because their daddy was no longer there to tuck them in at night, to be with them every day.
There are over 1,000 families that need our help. Untitled Towers is honoring those heroes that risked their lives by providing them with mortgage-free homes.
It means so much to me as a law enforcement officer who was affected by a tragic loss of my husband to know that if there is a loss in the future, the Tunnel to Towers will provide support for those families. They're not alone.
I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their efforts. Please visit tunneltotowers.org.
Welcome back to Blue Courage, our 1-hour special on restoring America's trust in law enforcement. Since June, many cities across America have become bastions of lawlessness. Murders have increased, as have the number of innocent children shot dead. Looters loot, arsonists burn, people in prayer are assaulted and beaten, and in many cases, criminals are then set loose to do it all again. Some politicians have called for the defunding of your police. In other places, politicians afraid of the mob themselves have become complicit by their silent cowardice. In many cities and states across the country, politicians who've never strapped on a sidearm, who've never stepped into the dark to do dangerous work, are disarming and defunding your police. Since before we had a country, we had police. In 1635, settlers established a night watch. Much has changed in the succeeding centuries, of course, but what has remained the same is the simple notion that some of your fellow citizens, motivated by a desire to serve and with the courage to do so, volunteer for a tough profession, and they do so to protect all of us. If you're old enough to remember where you were on 9/11, you're also old enough to remember that there was a near universal outpouring of support then for our police officers, along with, of course, our firefighters, first responders, and military service members. Yet today, less than 2 decades later, it's rare that a week goes by without hearing of yet another assault against, or tragically, a murder of one of our law enforcement officers. How did we get here? Tonight we'll be talking with some of the families whose loved ones made the ultimate sacrifice. We'll be talking about real solutions, about what you and I and all of us can do. And we'll be talking with some of the country's experts on policing and men and women who've worn the badge. We're joined now by Rob O'Donnell, a former NYPD homicide detective with nearly 30 years of public safety experience. Rob also serves on the board of directors for the Pipehitter Foundation. And Cully Stimson, senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation. He's one of the nation's leading experts on homeland security and crime control. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us.
So Rob, let me begin with you. You've been a part, in one way or another, of a lot of terrorist attacks in the United States. You were there, you responded to the 93 World Trade Center bombing, you were part of the response to 9/11. When you had a terrorist incident at Fort Dix, you were there. You even had your son call you from Pensacola, Florida, a place I'm familiar with. I went to officer candidate school there during an attack. In the past, when people thought about terrorism in the United States, they often thought of it as an attack that was sponsored by a foreign adversary or lone wolves carrying out this kind of terrorist attacks. Now, our police are facing a threat from Antifa. How did the Antifa threat grow? How has this changed? And why is it so important that we're supporting law enforcement to address this new threat?
Well, how it grew is the stand down mentality of the cities that it's grown in, where they've allowed them to flourish, where they haven't quashed these Antifa type uprisings, from the start. They've never set that tone that this is not acceptable, so it's grown as acceptable in these cities and it's spreading nationwide. The infrastructure behind them is great. The funding behind them is great, and it's allowed them to transport themselves from city to city to bring this anarchy. And it doesn't take many. I mean, you can have a peaceful protest of 1,000 people. If you have 12 or 15 or 20 hardened anarchists that come to create havoc, they're going to monopolize on that situation to do so. And we've seen time and time again how they're doing this in our cities across the nation.
Yeah, and Cully, let me turn to you on that really important point that Rob made. I mean, you've served on the front lines of this as a prosecutor. You've also have a perspective from having served in the Department of Defense, in the Pentagon. One of the things that we've seen is that we've had a lot of prosecutors who, when police officers bring in criminals with evidence, people who've been committing arson, who've been looting, who've been rioting, you've had a lot of prosecutors who've turned around and then sent folks right back out onto the streets. Talk with us a little bit about what that does and the role of prosecutors in supporting our law enforcement officers.
Yeah, so the prosecutor occupies a unique position in the entire criminal justice system. They are the gatekeepers to the courtroom. So if police do their job, which some mayors in these liberal cities are not even allowing the police to do their jobs, arrest people and have probable cause to arrest them and bring a good case to a prosecutor, some of these rogue prosecutors, or what they call progressive prosecutor offices, have non-prosecution memos where entire classes of crimes are off the menu. Rachel Rollins, the Boston elected rogue prosecutor, has 15 particular crimes: wanton malicious destruction of property, possession with intent to distribute, breaking and entering, and all sorts of other crimes. So does Larry Krasner in Philadelphia. So does the rogue prosecutor in Portland, Oregon. The list goes on and on. So they're line deputies, they're line prosecutors who are supposed to follow the law, simply are not allowed to charge them. So they're essentially, Eric, usurping the power of the legislature. They're violating the separation of powers by not enforcing the law as written. They're not faithfully executing the law. And so those charges just don't get filed. And these thugs and criminal elements can just go right back out on the street with impunity.
And let's remind all of our viewers that prosecutors take an oath, just like you took an oath as a Navy officer that you were going to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. These prosecutors take an oath to uphold the law, and when they fail to do so, they are violating that oath. Cully, give us also some historical perspective as you think about the history of the country and you think about where we're at today. What does this assault on law enforcement actually mean for the Republic, and why is it so important that people get back in and start supporting our law enforcement officers?
Well, first off, I think we are probably all in agreement that the vast majority of Americans are patriotic and they support
Yes.
law enforcement. But there's a growing cancer in our country, frankly, that believes law enforcement is systemically racist, that they are the problem. And when you put it in a historical perspective, this assault on law enforcement is an assault on the United States because we are founded on the rule of law. We have a written constitution with enumerated rights that we as citizens have. So if you're assaulting the very people that are supposed to enforce the rule of law, you're enforcing the concept of a free America bound by a federal constitution and 50 state constitutions. That's how dire this is.
Yeah, and Rob, from your perspective, look, you're often a contributor to a lot of different law enforcement journals, things that police officers are reading. What are the key messages that you think our officers need to be hearing, both from the general public and from our political leaders? And we've only got a little bit of time left, in 30 seconds or less. The key messages you think they need to be hearing.
Sure. With policing and community relations, there's no doubt a conversation needs to be had. But we need to start that conversation from a place of fact, not fiction. And what we're dealing with now is a lot of fiction. They're taking 0.01% of the incidents nationally and demonizing 850,000 police officers nationwide, and that needs to stop. And this is a tale of times where you get these progressive mayors and these politicians who want you to look at this boogeyman and say, you need me to protect you from that boogeyman, because it shields them from what they're not doing. They're not dealing with the inner city issues they have. They're not dealing with education. They're not dealing with homelessness, jobs. They're not dealing with the real issues that stem crime. And they're using your police and this anti-police momentum as rhetoric to shield themselves for their inadequacies as a political leader.
Thank you, Rob. We appreciate you, Cully. Thank you both. We're joined now by Bernie Kerik, former New York City Police Commissioner who was running the NYPD on September 11th, 2001. He's a great personal friend. He is an icon for law enforcement officers across the country. Bernie, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, look, Bernie, you have one of the unfortunate distinctions of having had to attend probably more law enforcement funerals than any person in the country. You were running the NYPD on September 11th. You were there leading these men and women who courageously saved lives that day, who put their lives at risk so that they could save others. And everybody remembers how after September 11th, there was this great outpouring of support across the country for law enforcement officers. People were thanking them. They were standing behind them. Young men and women wanted to become law enforcement officers. Now we're in this place, less than 20 years later. We've got some politicians who've never worn a sidearm in their life who are calling for defunding the police and disarming the police. How did we get from there to here? And what do we need to do to restore trust in law enforcement across the country?
You know what, Governor? You just about called it yourself. It's the leadership. It's the political leadership. You know, on the morning of September 11th and in the aftermath of the attacks, I worked for Rudy Giuliani. Giuliani was somebody that understood our job, knew what the men and women did in the police department, the fire department, the emergency services, supported them, made sure they had the right resources, the manpower, what they needed to do the job. But today, we unfortunately, over the last 20 years, have elected leaders, mayors, city council members, and in many cities, prosecutors that are extremely left-leaning. Some are identified as Marxists, some are socialists, They don't like law enforcement. They villainize them. They victimize thugs. That's who a lot of these cops today are working for. And I think the general public at large, 80 to 90% of the general public, they love law enforcement. They love the cops, the men and women that are in their communities, and they would do anything for them. But when the leadership is turned against them and the leadership villainizes them and targets them, things start to go downhill, and that's what we have seen.
Now look, you've led law enforcement officers on the streets. You've led them through some of the most horrific incidents that the country has ever faced, and you've worn the badge yourself. You're an extraordinarily humble leader, but I want to share with everybody. I mean, you've lived this. You've rescued people from burning buildings. You've been stabbed. You've been shot at. You had to rescue a partner who was wounded in a gun battle. You've had numerous death threats against you. Right? You understand what courage is really about. Give the viewers at home who might not be law enforcement officers or part of a law enforcement family, give them a sense for the kind of courage that it takes to serve in law enforcement, to put that badge on and go out and do this job every night.
You know, Governor, I try to look at it like this, and I try to explain to people the performance, the job that we have in this way. We're no different than any other citizen in the country, right? We put our pants on the same way. We eat the same foods. We go to the same churches and synagogues and religious services. The difference is we have a job where lives depend on it. And at some point in time in the day, we put a bulletproof vest on, put that badge on, put a sidearm on, and we go out and we do a job that most people wouldn't have the courage to do. Nobody really wants to run into a burning building when that building's on fire and coming down. Nobody wants to run toward gunfire when the guns are blazing and bullets are flying. It's sort of like the military, right? They go out and they do a job that a lot of people, they just wouldn't have the courage to do. So men and women in law enforcement, they go out, they do that job, and they pray. They pray that at the end of their 8-hour tour, they're going to go home to be with their families, with their wives, their kids, their husbands. And unfortunately, sometimes that doesn't happen. And on the morning of September 11th, I lost 23 cops. We lost 37 Port Authority police officers. We lost 343 firefighters. And we've lost dozens, hundreds since as a result of cancer. Nobody thought that they were going to work that day and they wouldn't go home. Mm-hmm. That's the risk we take. That's the life we have. And I think a lot of times it goes underappreciated, underpaid, but they're still out there. They're still doing the job, and it's because they care for this country, they care for our people, and they want to see people live in a safe and secure environment.
Well, sir, we appreciate your service to this country at a time when we all needed it. The country was really standing on your shoulders, and you've continued ever since to continue to serve on the front lines and to be an advocate for law enforcement. Folks, that's Bernie Kerik, NYPD Commissioner, great American. Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Today, we launch Fight for America, to advocate for American values and institutions, to champion the law enforcement.
I work with exceptional deputies, police officers. We have people that truly want to get out there and do good. I'm very happy that the Heritage Foundation and Heritage Action are willing to stand up, are willing to speak for the silent majority, to say that we still believe in what our founding fathers believed in.
It's finally here. Download the Real America's Voice app now. The Real America's Voice new app gives you free, exclusive content, including your favorite shows, both live and on demand, along with today's top stories. Don't just watch. Download now and make a difference. Text APP to 888-111 to download the Real America's Voice app.
It is now an honor to bring into your homes two incredibly courageous women, Ann Dorn and Alexis Bohannon. Many of you are familiar with Ann's story. She is the widow of David Dorn, a former St. Louis police captain and St. Louis area police chief who tragically gave his life in service to his fellow citizens when he was murdered by looters during rioting this past summer. And Alexis Bohannon is the widow of slain police officer Bo Bohannon, who gave his life responding to danger to a call of shots fired in St. Louis just weeks ago. Ann and Alexis, we're honored to have both of you with us tonight. Thank you very much for being on with us.
Thank you.
So Ann, let me begin with you. Your families have made the ultimate sacrifice. What is your message to all of the families who are watching this show right now about how they can support not just our law enforcement officers, but also law enforcement families around the country during this difficult time?
Eric, I mean, in this day and age, what we need is them to just acknowledge and say thanks for the not just for the sacrifices, but for the everyday work that officers do, first responders do every day. They put their life on the line. They leave their families at home during holidays in the evenings and on weekends. They miss soccer games. Just a simple thank you goes such a long way with law enforcement officers. But if people want to really support, go out there, get in the community, work with the community, help the officers, get our communities back, bring our communities back to when it was when we were a community. Communities were actually families, and we helped raise each other's children. We could play in the streets. There was things going on, picnics or just events that happen in our neighborhoods. And then officers always came by and stopped and met everybody, and they played with the kids and just getting back to being friendly again. But I mean, if they want to give something, I mean, always Backstoppers, Crime Stoppers, anything that supports law enforcement or first responders, the Heroes Network. I mean, there's so many activities out there, so many events that help first responders, their families, injured officers. I could go on forever on the different groups that want to help, but if you want to get involved, get involved.
Yeah, well, I know we do have a lot of families that do want to get involved. Alexis, I know in particular that your family was supported by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Tell us what it was like when you and your children tragically lost Bo, his tremendous and courageous service. You had, I remember when we were last talking, you were telling me about all the people who've come around to support you. Yeah. What did that mean to you?
I mean, prior to all of this happening, I'd heard of organizations before, but Tunnel to Towers was one that I had not. And so just seeing the outpouring of love that the community shared and that organizations were willing and able to step up to help us was a tremendous, I felt gratitude. I felt humble. I felt obviously emotional, given the circumstances, but just the fact that there was an organization willing to step up and help us, just paying off that mortgage alone. Like, officers don't really make much. And, we were a family of 5. We had 3 kids. So, we were making it every penny count already anyway. So just having one less debt to worry about was a huge weight off my shoulders to have to worry about.
We know that there are families around the country that want to continue to support you and families like yours. And you've had a front row seat to understanding what it means for families who are serving on the front lines. There's so much misinformation in the mainstream media about police officers, about what law enforcement families go through. What's the number one thing that you wish your fellow citizens knew right now about what police officers do every day?
I'm a police officer still, so we sacrifice. We're away from our family so much. We give up our time with our families to protect and serve, to go out in the communities to help everybody. And we're real people. We're just like everybody else. We go to church, we grocery shop, we go to soccer games with our kids. We have parties, we have birthday parties with everybody. You know, unfortunately, we do have to miss some of them. But when we lose an officer, we lose a first responder, it's not just the family that loses them.
Yeah.
It's the entire agency. It's the entire city that loses somebody. And when we do lose somebody, you know, Tamaris was my brother.
Yes.
And it was like losing a family member to me. So they have to understand when we do lose somebody like that, that the whole entire police department as a whole, the whole first responder network, we all mourn that loss when it happens. And, you know, but we still carry out our job every single day, no matter what. I mean, within moments of Bohannon being murdered and my husband being murdered, officers still had to carry on with their job.
Yes.
No matter what, we still had to answer the call. So if people just remember that, we're all human. We just choose to serve our communities.
Well, we will remember, and part of what we want to do on this program is to make sure that we're honoring the memories of David and Bo. There's that great line that we remember people not just by stone monuments, but for what they've woven into the lives of others. We thank both of them for their service and sacrifice. Remember them. We thank you. And you know, folks, there are over 200,000 Americans who've signed on to Heritage Action for America's Police Pledge. It's a pledge made for you and for your fellow citizens, for citizens who oppose the calls to defund our police. So visit heritageaction.com/police pledge to sign on. Again, that's heritageaction.com/police pledge. Sign on and do your part to support families like the Dorn and Bohannon family who've made the ultimate sacrifice. We can all do our part. Last month, a new organization was founded by a former White House aide to galvanize support for President Trump and his law and order agenda among one key demographic, moms. The group, Moms for Safe Neighborhoods, is investing $3 million in an ad campaign targeting suburban moms. Now, they recently started airing this 30-second spot on networks and shows that appeal to suburban women. Let's take a look.
Lights out. Riots in the streets again tonight.
Police here are outnumbered.
The Democrat Congress and President Biden have made massive cuts to police.
Protesters now have entered a residential neighborhood.
Mom, what's that?
They'll defund police.
Stop!
They'll disarm you.
No!
Don't let this nightmare come true. Moms for Safe Neighborhoods is responsible for the content of this advertising.
We're joined now by Jessica Anderson, the Executive Director of Heritage Action for America. Jessica founded and currently runs Moms for Safe Neighborhoods, and she does so in her personal time. Jessica, it's really great to have you join us. Let me begin by asking simply, why did you start Moms for Safe Neighborhoods?
Well, thanks for having me today. It's great to be on with you. Moms for Safe Neighborhoods is first and foremost a grassroots movement of moms just like me and moms everywhere that want to see the issue of safety and security resonate at the ballot box this November. So we formed this super PAC to run this ad campaign nationally to tell the story of what a Biden presidency could potentially do to our neighborhoods, defunding the police, disarming moms, and what sort of nightmare scenario can come from this.
And what have you found, Jessica, as you've been out both airing this ad and then also talking with moms around the country? What are the real issues that are resonating for them as they think about casting their ballot in just a couple of weeks?
Well, it's really interesting because moms are multifaceted voters, just like, really all women are. Of course, we care about the economy, we care about healthcare, schools, but at the end of the day, you really can't care about those others' issues if you don't feel safe and secure in your own home and in your own neighborhood, and in particular with your children. So when we talk to suburban women and other mothers across the country, we realize that the message of safety and security is really the most primordial of any of the messaging. It resonates the most because it's the top of all of our minds. We worry about our children, we worry about their safety, and we want to see that protected from the police. So Moms is trying to gather us all together, have a show of force to support the police, support law enforcement, and really push back against this larger movement from the left that's going on right now to defund the police.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of politicians calling for defunding the police. Some of them are calling on disarming the police, disarming their fellow citizens. And you have seen across the country like repeated instances where looters have been let loose back onto the streets after being arrested. Arsonists who are allowed to kind of roam freely, riots that are happening in the streets, assaults against people engaged in prayer. How much do you think that coverage of this by the mainstream media, which often has a tilt on it, has a slant to it, how much do you think is really getting through to moms where they're saying to you, you know what, I'm concerned about this for my neighborhood?
Well, I don't think the media is doing a very good job of telling that story. And frankly, that's why we formed Moms for Safe Neighborhoods, so we could actually get that story out there. I mean, the violence over this late spring and throughout the summer was, really just reported whenever it reached a peak, or it was something like the ambush of the police officers in Los Angeles a few weekends ago. I know that Ms. Dorn has been part of this program. I mean, her incredible, heartbreaking story, some of that does break through, but the reality is the mainstream media doesn't cover this because it shows the extremism of the left. And the media really is in the pocket of so much of the Democrat Party and the liberal left that if they expose this, it would hurt their electoral chances. And I think that is exactly why Moms had to start, because we wanted to push back against this rhetoric and show that moms like me and moms everywhere want safety and security. We want law and order restored. We don't want this violence to go unchecked, or the rooting or the fires or the looting like you're referencing. And we wanted to do something meaningful about it.
Yeah, well, Jessica, look, it's certainly a powerful piece. Just in the 15 seconds that we have left, your final message to moms across America as they head into November.
Well, I would just encourage all moms to vote on our issues. Safety and security is top of mind. Share this ad with your friends and family. You can find it at momsforsafeneighborhoods.com and help us get this word out that safety and security is top of mind before we even focus on all of the other issues at stake this November.
Jessica, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate your leadership on this issue. Folks, that was Jessica Anderson, founder of Moms for Safe Neighborhoods. When we come back, we're going to be joined by our panel. Stay with us.
You've seen us on Roku, Dish, Pluto TV, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Join Real America's Voice in these new markets. We're excited to be coming to a city near you. KRID, Channel 22, Boise, Idaho. KPVM, Channel 25, Las Vegas, Nevada. WBNA, Channel 21, Louisville, Kentucky. Channel 113 is coming to Comcast, Chicago. Real news and honest views. Real America's Voice.
We're in a cultural battle. That's why Heritage Action created the Sentinel program, to empower conservatives to speak up, take action, and to hold your lawmakers accountable. And when Sentinels speak, Congress listens. Together, we're going to hold the line and advance conservatism for generations to come.
We've talked tonight about where we're at in America and how we got here. Now we're going to talk about how together we can fix it. And tonight we're joined by a frontline panel to really break it all down. We're joined now by actor and producer Kirk Cameron, by United States Army veteran and Florida Congressman Greg Steube. He was one of the first elected officials in the country to sign on to the Heritage Action for America Police Pledge. Deputy Chief of Police in the city of St. Louis and my good friend Larry O'Toole, And last but certainly not least, Daniel Payne, a reporter here at Just the News, who does a great job digging in and finding the truth. Daniel, first, I want to turn to you. You've just written a story about the advice that former Vice President Biden is giving to police officers on the front lines. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so at Biden's town hall on Thursday in Philadelphia, he suggested that one of the police reforms that he would seek would be advising police officers in violent altercations to shoot suspects or assailants in the leg, to aim not for center mass, but for the leg. That was his advice as a way of potentially mitigating deadly conflicts between police and assailants. And we looked into it, and we spoke to a number of police experts. We also spoke to a number of police reform activists who are generally fairly critical of the police. And what we found, surprisingly, was universally, almost all of them said that this was a bad idea, that whether or not you favor police reform or that you think the police are mostly doing a good job, that they believe that the advice to shoot a violent suspect in the leg does not comport with how police are trained, nor how they should be trained.
Yeah, I have to say, as a former SEAL, the advice to tactically shoot people in the leg has got to be one of the stupidest pieces of tactical advice that I've ever heard a politician offer to the men and women who are really out there doing this work on the front lines. And I think it speaks to the fact that a former vice president must not have a lot of these frontline officers around him who've been there, who've done that, who've had to be out, step into the night, do dangerous work to be there to protect all of our families. One of the guys who has done that, in fact, whose family has been part of a proud and courageous public service tradition for generations, is Larry O'Toole, Deputy Police Chief in St. Louis. Larry, you led your officers to help to defeat Antifa in 2017. You've now, as deputy chief, you've been there as your police officers have been shot. Unfortunately, you've had police officers shot and killed in the city of St. Louis. Your men and women are out there sacrificing every single day, and yet they are also under attack not only on the streets by people who are throwing Molotov cocktails at them and shooting fireworks at them, they're also under attack by George Soros-funded prosecutors in your own city. Tonight we're talking about solutions, though. What can the average citizen do that's most meaningful to support you and your officers on the street today?
Well, thanks for having me. I would tell you that, in St. Louis, as you mentioned, since June 1st, we've had 9 officers shot. We've had an officer, Damaris Bohannon, was killed on August 30th. And of course, we had retired Captain David Dorn was killed June 1st in looting. So our officers have been through a lot. I would tell you, to the citizens, we need them to get involved. We need them to be witnesses. Give us the information we need to do our jobs. And we need them to do their own homework to get the facts, because what's really hurting us, I believe, is the false narrative that comes out. And just for them to know what the truths are about the hard work that we do. I would tell you that last year, before I came here for the interview, I put up our calls for service in 2019. Our officers handled 514,000 calls for service. Out of that, the complaints from the citizens to our Internal Affairs Division, 32. Our officers handled 514 calls, and they got 32 complaints to the Internal Affairs Division. Now, our department generated our own. We generated 68 complaints on officers. So it tells you, our officers are out there doing a good job. And that's why I talk about the false narrative that is out there about what we're not doing and the things we are doing. So I think that just to ask the people to get behind us, to be, if they're a witness, to come forth to help us. That's how we prosecute, and we need that information. The prosecutors need that information, and we need them to get involved is really what it's about. But really to understand and educate themselves. The numbers are out there, and it's clear. And if you do that and look at the numbers and the truth, they're all going to be behind us. And I know the Fraternal Order of Police does a great job trying to take care of this narrative on their Twitter page, their Facebook page, but there is so much false narrative that is hurting policing throughout our country that we need to push back along those lines.
We do. We got to make sure that the truth actually gets out, because the vast majority of Americans are supporting their police officers. Congressman, you were one of the first elected officials to step forward and sign the police pledge. Why did you do so, and why do you think it's so important for your fellow Americans to follow your lead?
Well, I served in the active duty military. My father is a former sheriff. My brother is still a deputy on the road. And I think there's nothing that we can do as a country more than support our law enforcement, just like we support our military service members and women. Every day they put on a uniform and go out and protect us. And so we need to do what we can from a legislative perspective and from a public policy perspective to ensure that they have all the tools and things that they need to keep us safe. And to defund or dismantle our police departments is not the answer. So, in talking about things that we can do, I would encourage people to look and elect candidates that support law enforcement, that are willing to do the things that law enforcement needs to be successful, and give them the tools that they need to be successful. And I would contend that defunding police departments, dismantling police departments, all you have to do is look at the facts and the evidence that we see going on in New York City, that we see going on in some of these individual cities that are doing that. And it's quite the opposite. New York City alone's had a 166% increase in crime since all of the defunding talk.
Kirk, let me turn to you for a moment. I mean, you've done so much work with churches, with faith communities, with families across the country. What's your message to them tonight about how they can get involved and support their police officers?
Well, thank you, first of all, for even including me in this panel. I feel like maybe one of these things that doesn't belong. I'm not a law enforcement officer. I'm not an elected official. But gentlemen, thank you for everything you're saying. I agree with you as a citizen of this country with everything that you're saying. My uncle's a deputy sheriff. My grandfather was a Navy corpsman. He fought alongside the Marines in World War II on the island of Iwo Jima. And so I have a deep respect and appreciation for what you are all doing and supporting. And I'm a guy who's out speaking at churches to couples, not just law enforcement officers and their husbands and wives, but everyday church folk. And what I tell them is, I think when I look at the violence and I see what's going on out there, we need to be supporting those who are putting their lives on the line to protect and to serve us. And I've called upon the police. I've called 911 in the middle of the night more than once, and been so grateful to see these police officers come and, clear my backyard and everything because of the disturbances. And I'm so grateful for them. And I try to take every opportunity to roll down my window and just thank them and tell them I'm praying for them or whatever it is, because our law enforcement are so valuable. And then also, I think on the side of those of us who are being stopped by the police officers if we're speeding, or those of us who are just in the neighborhoods, we've got to be a people of character. We've got to be a people who don't just believe everything we see on TV and the false narratives that are being pushed on us in order to destabilize our communities and vilify those who are trying to protect us. Sure, there's some bad apples in the bunch. Yeah, we can find bad apples in any bunch. But I believe that we've got to be people of virtue, and we've got to stand up for and protect and support those who are putting their lives on the line to support and protect us.
Well, we have to do that. And one thing that we do have, an opportunity for everybody who's watching, is that there's a great initiative from our friends over at Heritage Action for America. And I'd encourage everyone who's inspired tonight to visit heritageaction.com/police pledge. Make your commitment tonight. Support these men and women who've taken the oath. We'll be right back.
You've seen us on Roku, Dish, Pluto TV, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Join Real America's Voice in these new markets. We're excited to be coming to a city near you. KRID, Channel 22, Boise, Idaho. KPVM, Channel 25, Las Vegas, Nevada. WVNA, Channel 21, Louisville, Kentucky. Channel 113 is coming to Comcast. Chicago. Real news and honest views. Real America's Voice.
Welcome back to Blue Courage. The Tunnel to Towers Fallen First Responder Home Program pays off the mortgages for the families of law enforcement officers and firefighters who give their lives in the line of duty and leave behind young children. Now, the foundation's goal is to ensure stability and security to these families who are obviously facing sudden and tragic loss. In 2018, Weymouth, Massachusetts police officer Michael Chesna was shot and killed when responding to reports of an erratic driver at 7:30 in the morning. Officer Chesna was survived by his wife Cindy and their 2 children. Later that year, the Tunnels to Tower Foundation paid off the Chesna family's mortgage. Cindy Chesna would have spent the next few years silently mourning the tragic loss of her husband. I don't think anyone would have blamed her, but as you'll see in just a minute, that isn't who Cindy Chesna is, and that wasn't who Michael Chesna was. She's committed to honoring the legacy of her husband and his brothers and sisters who are still on the thin blue line. And Cindy has raised thousands of dollars in t-shirt sales, and she's donated the proceeds back to Tunnel to Towers. And tonight, Cindy Chesna joins us on Blue Courage. Cindy, it is a real honor to have you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Cindy, tell us about what it meant for you facing this tragic loss when you had people like the Tunnel to Towers Foundation and others come around to support you.
It was absolutely unbelievable. I wouldn't have been able to do anything without it. I would have had to work to pay my mortgage so that my kids and I could live in the house that my husband and I had our family in, and I wouldn't have had any time to spend with them because I would have been working to try to keep our home.
And Cindy, when you see today so much of the anti-police rhetoric, and you have lived more and sacrificed more, and your family has more than anyone could ever ask in the cause of law enforcement, how does that make you feel, and what do you think about the direction that the country is headed?
It hurts. It hurts to see all the police being vilified for their profession. They put their uniform on every day to protect the lives of others.
These men and women, they get up every single day to put the uniform on, and I think what we recognize here is that every single person who puts that uniform on, they have a family. They have parents, they have children, they have spouses, they have brothers and sisters who are home waiting for them to come home at the end of every shift. What's your message to your fellow Americans right now about the profession of law enforcement?
Just to be kind and respect the police. There may be some that people don't like, but there are a lot of good ones out there, and they're there to help you. They're not there to hurt you. They're here to help you.
Cindy, you are an extraordinary example of courage, and I want to tell you that for the first time ever, Just the News is presenting the Blue Courage Award. We're doing so to an individual who's gone above and beyond the call of duty. We recognize that call of duty can take many forms. The award is made possible thanks to the sponsorship of the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. And Cindy, I'm honored to present the inaugural Blue Courage Award to you, to Cindy Chesna, and to your family for your incredible dedication to the service of others.
Thank you so much. It means so much to my family and I.
Well, Cindy, it means so much to us and to the country. The work that you've done. And I'm told, Cindy, that your work has actually made possible another donation. The family of slain Hot Springs, Arkansas police officer First Class Brent Scrimshire is never going to have to make another mortgage payment on their home. Tunnel to Towers Foundation Chairman and CEO Frank Siller and Tunnel to Towers Ambassador Cindy Chesna, who's joining us now, they've announced that the foundation has paid that family's mortgage in full. Officer Scrimshire was shot and killed in the line of duty on March 10th. He left behind his wife Rachel and their 2 children, their son Wyatt and daughter Riverlyn. Cindy helped to make this gift possible with a donation of over $19,000 that she raised from t-shirt sales to honor her late husband, who was shot and killed in the line of duty in 2018. So she's been paying it forward. And so just as Tunnels to Tower paid off the Chesna's family mortgage, Cindy has now turned around to do that for another family. Cindy, we are honored to have you join us tonight. Thank you so much, and know that our thoughts and prayers continue to be with you and your family.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be on with you guys and to send my message out and to honor another family.
God bless you for the work that you continue to do, Cindy. Thank you so much.
Thank
Folks,
you.
Officer Chesna lost his life for responding to reports of a suspicious person. Officer Scrimshire was shot and killed during a traffic stop. Every day, these heroes put themselves in harm's way to keep us safe on the roads and in our communities. We believe that we need to take care of the families these heroes leave behind on those tragic days when they do not come home. Please help us in our efforts to provide these families mortgage-free homes by going to T2T.org. That's T2T.org. And join us by donating $11 a month so that the hundreds of families waiting for homes can get the help that they deserve. This is a country that was built by courage and hope. If we have any hope to restore peace, we must never forget the service of men and women in police departments and sheriff's offices all across this country. So tonight, and every night on Real America's Voice, we remember and we honor the stories of courage and heroism by American heroes. We're in a tough time, but we've been through tough times before. This is a country held together by courage, and here we honor it. God bless you. God bless the men and women in law enforcement, and God bless America. Good night.
Blue Courage, honoring our men and women in law enforcement.
My mom was the most amazing person in my life.
I would definitely consider my mom as a hero.
I love and miss my mom very much. The worst day of my life was the day that my mother was murdered on July 5th, 2017. That same night in the hospital, when my brother and sister asked me who was going to take care of them, after I had to break the horribly tragic news that our mother had been murdered, I said, I will take care of you.
There are over 1,000 families that need our help. Untitled Towers is honoring those heroes that risk their lives by providing them with mortgage-free homes.
First responders are human too. They have fears and families that they need to come home to. For just $11 a month, you can give back to these heroes who gave up so much for you and ensure that their families will always have a home.
Please donate $11 a month by visiting TunnelToTowers.org or calling 1-844-BRAVEST. Thank you.
Today, we launch Fight for America to advocate for American values and institutions, to champion the law enforcement.
I work with exceptional deputies, police officers. We have people that truly want to get out there and do good. I'm very happy that the Heritage Foundation and Heritage Action are willing to stand up, are willing to speak for the silent majority, to say that we still believe in what our founding fathers believed in.